It's spoken of in the Bible and described in the ancient histories. Frankincense, a simple aromatic, valued more highly than gold, the most sought-after treasure of the ancient world. Emperors of Rome had it burned at their funerals, and it was the Magi, the wise men who came from the East, who brought frankincense to the baby Jesus.
Why frankincense? Frankincense is simply a tree sap. So is myrrh. But when burned on a coal, if you put the frankincense on a coal, the scent of the frankincense was considered by the ancient people to be evidence of God on earth.
But where did the frankincense come from? Historians have puzzled over the mystery of where the vast groves of trees might have been. The only clue existed in the ancient myths and legends, which spoke of a lost city, Ubar, where the frankincense trade route began its journey. It was in 1992 that an American archaeological expedition set out to find the source. For the first time, archaeology made use of space-age technology. Powerful radar images taken from the space shuttle enabled them to literally see beneath the sand. And through high-tech imaging at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, a distinct track emerges. The old caravan route which led them to an ancient site they were finally able to identify as the lost city of Ubar. It was from here the trade in frankincense began its journey. This track is the last remaining visible evidence of the caravans, which brought the frankincense to the Egyptians, Romans, and other peoples of the ancient world, who valued it so highly. But a nagging question remained. Where were the vast groves of trees that supplied the enormous amounts of frankincense used by the ancients? Back in '92, the expedition couldn't follow the trail because it led directly into the People's Republic of Yemen, a country where, for political reasons, no Westerner was allowed to set foot. Did the trail lead to the source of the frankincense? The answer was to remain a mystery, until now. Yemen recently reopened to the West, so 3 members of the original expedition, George Hedges, a Los Angeles attorney and archaeologist, Yuri Zarins, the lead archaeologist from Southwest Missouri State University, and Ron Blum, a geologist from JPL who specializes in satellite imagery, reformed and mounted a new expedition. Their purpose? To pick up the ancient trail in Yemen and track it to the location which was the source of the frankincense, where thousands of the trees must have been growing, enough to create the enormous supply the ancient world demanded. The new expedition had the advantage of a more advanced type of digital imaging, one that now shows geophysical details, enabling them to better see and understand the topography of one of the world's least known places.
Notice how that was a huge area, and that's why it's considered prime frankincense country, and the historical records talk about that. And it's less so in this area because you're getting a smaller region that apparently is affected.
Yeah, but it's got the same characteristics. Yes. So there's almost certainly frankincense growing in the back here, right. And there was probably more.
Now they had the opportunity to unravel the final mystery of the frankincense trail.
I think the biggest mystery that we're trying to solve is where did frankincense originate? And myrrh, for example, and what made the circumstances peculiar, and it's been helped along by the fact that we have modern 20th century, 21st century technology to help us.
They knew frankincense came from somewhere behind a coastal mountain range, where the unusual microclimate was perfect for the growth of frankincense trees, which exuded a sap of the highest quality. This new expedition would take them 3,000 miles in 3 weeks, striking out through a rugged desert terrain, both dangerous and unforgiving. Ron Blum practices the art of satellite navigation using his JPL space imagery. Along with his global positioning equipment, he points the expedition in the direction they believe is the ancient trail that has been lost for thousands of years.
To drive into the myrrh region means driving through mountain passes where literally to cover a distance of 180 miles, it took us 3 very, very hard days of traveling. Oftentimes traveling at no more than 2 or 3 miles an hour as we went over. They aren't even roads, they're camel trails. Caravans amounted sometimes to literally thousands of camels in a single caravan. Imagine a line of camels that could stretch for a mile, moving along this trading route.
It was across this barren landscape that caravans brought the frankincense, which was so highly valued throughout the ancient world. The expedition suddenly encounters an enormous ruin. Can these be the walls of an ancient fortress, a safe haven for the caravans making their way north? But the area is dry, lacking any sign of the precious water which would clearly identify it as part of a caravan route. They push onwards, hoping to find the ruins of the next fortress along the route, perhaps one with an oasis, or even evidence of an ancient well, watering sites that would confirm that this was indeed the forgotten trail. But even with the help of satellite images, following the route is still something that has to be done on the ground, and in Yemen, you don't travel without guides. The Bedouin tribesmen accompanying the expedition proved to be invaluable in a number of ways.
Whenever you travel through the tribal lands, it's absolutely vital that you have a local guide, a member of the tribe, because in addition to knowing its way around the area, they also introduce you to the local people, and simply a critical thing in traveling in that part of the world.
Pushing deeper into this unexplored area of Yemen, the expedition finds another enormous ruin, the ghost of an ancient fortress that still looms over the proof they are searching for, a water source that has survived for thousands of years. This is the beginning of a string of sites, all guarding various water sources which were the lifeline of the ancient Frankincense trail.
What we were able to find are essentially way stations on a caravan route. We have found Ubar-like fortresses that would have been there to guard the route and also to have supplies, etc., for the ancient traders.
Thanks to Ron Blom's space imaging, the expedition is successfully tracking the route, finding sites which hold much promise for future excavations. But one afternoon, they come close to losing their navigator.
One of our drivers managed to launch us off a low sand dune, and we went from 20 or 25 miles an hour to zero in essentially 0 feet.
Luckily, Ron Blom's head was stronger than the windshield. But if they had been going any faster, it might have turned out differently. Nearby is one of the few places en route the expedition can refuel, and it is definitely self-service out here in the desert. The satellite mapping continues to guide them, but what they find next could be evidence of a navigational system as good as Ron's, one that got the caravan safely from one fortress to the next. Stretching out in front of them was a single line of stone standing upright.
They're called trillis because they're generally 3 stones and they're in sets, in lines. They're very mystifying and fascinating.
No one can for certain know what they are because they were constructed so long ago, and there's no living memory of them. We've heard everything of route markers. People have talked about, for example, that they were ceremonial. Maybe there were fires they used to point the way at night.
So we decided to go down into the valley, go across the valley to that set of trillis and see where that set of trillis were leading us. They were leading us in a different direction. So we took that direction and came to another set of trillis. And they were then turning and bending in another direction. We turned in that direction and we saw in the distance a small tree. There are very few trees in this part of the world. Came to the tree and there was the ancient well. So to me that was some real proof that the trillis were in fact route markers for the ancient frankincense traders, leading them to water.
The clear pattern of water sources, fortresses, and direction markers proves beyond a doubt that this is the legendary Frankincense Trail. There was just one more thing to discover.
The evidence is that literally tons of frankincense were being transported in these enormous camel caravans. There's a mystery to that, and that is that we can't figure out how that much frankincense could have come from our region with the climate as it is today.
The final mystery. Where did this treasure of the ancient world actually grow? Certainly not in this arid climate. The ancient texts and historical research say virtually nothing. The Ubarites did not want the world to know the location of their precious trees and the treasure they harvested from them.
So one of the additional mysteries that's going to unfold has to do with how moist this desert was, how lush it was, how far that monsoon cloud may have come during ancient times.
The climatic effect is created by that monsoon hitting that coast, very wet, and so it's a very unique ecological zone.
The manipulation of the images confirmed that a unique microclimate existed on the other side of the coastal mountain range, benefiting from what was called a rain shadow, humid air that blew across the top of the mountain, giving the trees exactly the right amount of moisture to produce the sap.
So the best frankincense trees grow behind it. And once you understand that, then you realize why no one was telling.
The Ubarites kept the location secret because the trees were so exposed and vulnerable, and there was no way to protect them from raiders. So instead, the Ubarites spread stories and myths about the dangers that awaited anyone searching for them. Although the expedition found small groves of the precious trees still being harvested for the sap, they have not yet found any evidence of the massive groves that would have been necessary to support the trade of this, the most valuable of all ancient commodities. Yuri Zarins and other expedition members will soon be returning to Yemen, starting archaeological excavations while continuing to seek out the source of the frankincense.
And so archaeology is a detective story. You want to unravel the past to solve a mystery, and it becomes a fascination. And once you unravel that, then you go on to unravel other things, and you can say, well, this is how it fits to the present. It's no different in ancient times than it is today. Ancient times, commodity was frankincense. It was a product that was rare, and people fought over it, and they wanted it. Well, today we fight over oil. It's an analogous situation, and the past isn't just cut off. It happened then. It's happening now, and so there's a very strong relationship there.
Slowly but surely, these intrepid explorers of both past and present are solving the mysteries of the ancient world's most precious treasure, a simple aromatic that kings would pay a ransom for. With the most advanced technology looking down from space, they are turning tales of myth and legend into historical reality.